Okay, hi. Sorry, I was so close there. Our last video that I'm going to do, at least for now, is about executive orders, and you're going to get an assignment. There's going to be a link to a handout. I forget if I gave it to you when I gave you those packets. If so, you already have it, but you'll recognize it hopefully. And then a video link to that I'm Just a Bill, and then there's also one about executive orders that's sort of a parody, just for fun. But executive orders are statements or decrees, I guess. It's kind of like a law light, if you will, that are issued by presidents. Okay. But Mr. Biden has issued, when I'm saying this to you, I think it's over 40 right now. There may be more. Trump issued, it's become a more common thing, especially as Congress becomes more divided and not getting stuff done. Okay, but executive orders mainly usually are non-controversial, and if you look at the thing here, there's one of two types. The first type is the most common, and it's not controversial. You don't even know about it hardly. It simply puts a law that the president signs into practice. So if you go back to the laws that we passed, the one about band, choir, theater kids can't tell jokes, and the other one about outlawing the key of soul. So the president signs a bill, says the key of soul is outlawed, and they will be destroyed after a year or 6 months or whatever. Okay, then he will make a statement basically saying, okay, I've signed this law. Now the key of soul will not be allowed to be produced, sold, imported, owned, etc. So it's kind of like, if you lower the drinking age to 18, a letter goes out to every state, and then the state sends out those letters to the bars and such. Okay, now you will check ID for under 18, not under 21. You will serve. You will put the sign on the door that says this and this and this. Okay? That's all that is. So it's just making it official and putting it, getting it rolling, and here we go with the new law. Okay? The second type is less common, but it's way more controversial. And this is when the president does an end run around Congress to do something that Congress doesn't want to touch. Immigration with Trump. With Biden, it's a lot of things, but one that stands out is the whole transgender thing about we're going to treat transgender just like we're going to treat gender, in that you can't discriminate based on employment, you can't discriminate based on school, what sport you want to play, what restroom you want to use, and things like that. Because Congress is never going to deal with that because it's so, they don't want to touch it. So presidents a lot of times will just, okay, I'm going to go ahead and do this because I want to get it done, and the only way it's going to get done is through an executive order. Especially if Congress, I just put tough road to a law, usually in plain English, is they don't want to mess with it because it's too divisive. Abortion, things like that, funding abortions, funding. Should a healthcare provider have to pay for abortions for their employees if they don't believe in it, and so on and so forth. And really, and I'll add this, there's only a couple ways to get rid, 3 ways actually, to get rid of, okay? And these are used. Number one, new president. Many of the executive orders that Biden signed simply undid what Trump did. And if Biden does a bunch, and then, a Republican, Mike Pence or whoever gets elected in 2024, they'll probably do the same thing. So they don't last long unless you've got power. That's the problem with being too controversial, because then you're just setting yourself up. But, at least for that time period, you get what you want, I suppose. Secondly, would be a court decision. And you saw that already with Biden, but you saw a lot of times with Trump in that, hey, you can't enforce that. You can't. And the judge says you can't enforce the border thing. You can't enforce the, sorry for the glare there. I'm looking at the snow. You can't enforce the refugee thing. You can't have those cages, and so on and so forth. And that creates a stay, and then the courts go back and forth, and then the Supreme Court eventually, if they do, will decide that, which we'll get to next section, actually. And then finally, you could have Congress actually pass a law that overturns that law that would be signed by the president. It's not going to happen because, why would you sign something that you disagree with unless it's veto proof? And if it's veto proof, they're going to probably pass it in the first place. So that doesn't happen often. It did happen with Obama once, where he issued an executive order about funding abortions in Obamacare to get a handful of Democrats who were pro-life to vote for it. So they voted for it, and then when Congress passed the law, they took that part out, and those pro-life Democrats were basically trapped, like, you got to vote, and they whipped them, not literally, to vote for it because we needed every vote to pass because it was that close. And they voted for it, and to a person, they are not in Congress anymore. They all either lost re-election bids or they end up resigning afterwards, or retiring, I guess. So those are the three ways to go around. Mainly those two are the ones that are typically used. Okay, so hopefully that explains things. Like I said, there's a sheet that'll be with it, and then the assignment. I really would rather do this in class, but if this is what we're going to have, this is what we're going to have. I'll give to you, and it'll be like one of those I give it to you on one day, and you got like 4 days to do it, so it's not like it's time crucial. Okay, so as always, any questions, just let me know. Otherwise, enjoy the day. See ya.